Welcome to another episode of AFI's Cover 7 podcast. We have a very special guest with us today, Daniel Docal, a player and coach in Europe. Daniel, thanks for coming on and chatting with us.
For sure, appreciate it. Happy to be here with you.
Awesome. So Daniel, coach and player, more of a coach now obviously, but you've had a pretty interesting career. I think you started playing in Spain, right, and then went to ELF, and now coaching at a big-time D1 school in the States. Tell us a bit about your journey from when you started playing football to where you are now.
So I started playing football in Spain. My first real team was the Osos Rivas. Well, it's one of the best teams in Spain. They won the championship last year. I was never lucky enough to win it when I was there, but I played there for about 6 seasons, I think. And then 2016, when I graduated college, I tried to do like a master's in the States, something like that, try to walk on and try to play somewhere else. But it was too hard, so I couldn't do it. So best next thing I could find was try to find the best competition possible in Europe. So I moved to Germany. I moved to Schwäbisch Hall. I played 2 seasons with the Unicorns. Then I came back to Spain. I played in 2018 in Spain, and then 2019 I went back to Germany again. That's when I played with Alex in Hildesheim. And then 2020 was the COVID year. I was supposed to play in Spain for the season there and then go to Germany a little late, around June or something, to join the GFL. But then GFL was canceled, Spanish League was canceled, everything was canceled. So I applied to the Spring League because I had a friend that had played there, so I thought that would be cool, that would be a cool experience. And I got selected to go over there, so I went. That was September 2020, and I went to San Antonio. That was the first year that they had like a real league, because before that, it used to be like a showcase kind of thing, kind of like the Hub is doing right now. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time they had like a real pro league. It's the same as the USFL actually. It's literally the same thing. They just rebranded it, but it's the same league. So I played the first season there with Mario, who played with me every team. Mario Flores, he's with the Dragons the last couple of years. So I think we were the only Europeans there. I think we were the first ones to ever play over there. That was a really cool experience because that was great football. And then I came back, and in 2021 I played with the Kings in the ELF. And then this year I was gonna play in the GFL with the Rebels. I played part of the season, they played full season because I got the opportunity to go to the States, and then I took it, and I was coaching this year, and then that's kind of it until now.
Very cool. Can you tell us about what it was like for you coming from Europe to jumping into a Division I program like Bucknell and jumping into experienced coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big shock because the way things work over here, like it's so different. Especially in coaching, like everything else is actually really similar. Like if I was playing over there and I wasn't coaching, like I don't think it would have been like that big of a shock. I don't even think FCS football is like insanely better than top European football. I think it's a little bit better, but I think it's actually like fairly close in terms of athletes and talent and stuff like that. But just the way the coaching world works over there is insane. So like it was a big shock for me how much they work, how much we have to do. Like the workload was absolutely insane. So I would show up to the office at like 6:30 a.m. and I couldn't leave the building until like 10:30, maybe 11 p.m. And that was Monday to Sunday, every day of the week, every week of the month. It was like full-time thing. And like when I talked to the DC during the interview process, like he told me that, but I didn't take it seriously. I thought it would be bad, but it wouldn't be that bad. So, but it was like that was the hardest part for me because I was tired all the time. I was so overwhelmed with how much stuff I had to do, and that was like the hardest part. That was the big suck. But actually, when we were like in the practice field and we were doing like real football stuff, like that was really refreshing because at the end of the day, it's the same sport. We're doing the same thing. So that was the cool part. That was the easy part. But then how much stuff we had going on behind the scenes was absolutely insane. Like every week we had to get ready this scout book for every opponent we were playing, and this is only defense. So that's half of the team, And this scout book was like probably like this thick, and it was like every week it was a brand new book that we would make with like formations, plays, tendencies, all that stuff. And it was just that was a lot of work. So that was the biggest thing for me. That it was a lot of work. And I'm not used to working like that because, we're putting like 90 hours per week, 100 hours per week, stuff like that.
That's crazy. I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear you say that FCS isn't that dissimilar from top European talent.
Yeah.
If that is the case, why do you feel there are not more Europeans in Division One football? And obviously there are a decent amount, and we all know some names. But I mean, why would you say there's not a bigger group of people coming from European football to Division One football?
I mean, I think there are a few things that make it really hard for Europeans. The first thing is, in my opinion, this may not be right, but that's the way I feel about it. I think a lot of guys in Europe are late bloomers. Like me, for example, like when I was 18, 19 years old, like I couldn't play at all. You know, I didn't start from my Spanish team. I couldn't have started anywhere in Europe. You know, and I became like a good player when I was like, I don't know, 24 maybe. So I took a lot of time to develop. And in the States, you don't have that opportunity. If you're not a dude at like 17, 16 years old, like you're most likely never going to get that opportunity. So that's one of the things, like in Europe, we take a lot of time to develop because we have that time, you know what I mean? In the States, you don't have that. So like if you're a European player, you want to play Division One football in the States, like you have to be really good and you have to be developed really early. So like you have to be like 18, maybe 19 pushing it, and you have to already be close to a top European player, you know. And if you look at the ELF or GFL or any of these leagues, all of the top guys are like, they're fairly old, you know. They are like 26, 27, 28. Some guys, like for example Fernandez from Barcelona, in my opinion right now he's the best European player in Europe, you know. And he's 21, he's extremely young, but he's already too old to be a college player. And of course he couldn't be eligible and all that stuff, but like if that wasn't an issue and I was trying to recruit Fernandez to come play at Bucknell, like he'll be 21 years old, like he'll be junior, maybe a senior, like, you know, it's not the same. So that's one of the things that I think is like a really big hurdle. And then another problem is like, you know, being so far away and having so many like different like academics and rules and all that stuff. Like sometimes the coaches, they just don't want to deal with all that, because these guys are extremely overworked. Like they're working around the clock. Like they're doing, like, they can't literally do anything else than they're doing, you know. So if they have to spend 10 extra minutes figuring out visas or permits or I don't know, transcripts, any of that, like they're just not gonna do it because they don't have the time and they don't want to put that extra effort. And I understand it because like they're already working that way too much. And then another problem is like a really big part of the recruiting process, at least at the FCS level, is like the visits. So like you bring the kids over to the campus and then you can mess with them, you can talk to them and stuff like that. And then the coaches get on the road and they go to these guys' homes and they meet their parents and their families, and so they get to know how they really are. And that's something that in Europe is kind of hard to do. So all of the Europeans, because when I was there, I was trying to recruit Europeans and I was trying to like get the coaching staff to like look at some European guys, and they actually did, and some of them they really liked, but all of the guys that they actually considered were guys that were playing high school football. Just because it was easier. They're already in the States, the transcripts are not going to be an issue. They know that the language is not an issue because if they're in high school, like, you know, they can manage high school, they can manage college in terms of language, you know. So that's another one of the things that I see that are a problem for them. And like the language, they take that really seriously. Like when I first talked to the head coach when I was going to go to Bucknell, like the first thing he said was like, "Whoa, I'm surprised your English is actually pretty good." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I don't think that's real." But he was like really surprised, and that was like his number one concern, bringing somebody over from somewhere else. So there's just too many hurdles, and these guys they don't have the time to like go through any of these extra work or extra effort to get these guys. And it's the same because especially at the SCS level or at places like Bucknell or any other Patriot League school, the recruiting is so limited. Because, you know, if you're an FCS school and you want to get like a 6'7" defensive end, you know, you're not going to do it because like those guys are going to go FBS or, you know, like they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to be above you. But if you want to find that type of athleticism, you can do it in Europe. You know, I was trying to recruit a kid called Bruno Dahl from Germany, and he ended up going to Akron, which is an FBS school, so he did better than what I would have been able to offer him. But that's a guy that could have considered coming to Bucknell, and he was a 6'7" defensive end with all the athleticism to be a draft pick. And those are guys that are not available for you as an FCS school, you know what I mean? So it's a shame that they're not doing it because there's a whole pool of talent that they could try to get. And then another thing with the Patriot League schools is like they need to have like really high GPA. They need to be really smart. So most of the time when you go, like I get it, like you're trying to get the best players possible, but maybe they're not the best students as well. But if you come to Germany or you go to Sweden or you go in any of these countries that are like really, really developed, like these guys have great grades, they're smart, they're really well educated, so they could be a great fit for schools like these. And they are really limited in their recruiting, so like this could open up the whole process for them. But they just don't have the time to like actually do it, you know.
No, that makes sense. So it's more operational issues as opposed
Yeah.
to actual on-field talent is things like.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
that's where like Brandon Collier and what he's been doing with PPI comes in, and it's quite good that you're getting those visits in and you're getting some face-to-face time, and so these coaches can see that hey, this kid is actually massive. He can actually speak English, and then that kind of gives a far more lasting impression than maybe a self-made highlight tape. So I get that
Absolutely.
totally. As far as your evaluation process goes, on European talent or just European football in general, what has been your initial thoughts on the ELF off-season so far?
Oh man, I feel like some teams are doing great things. I feel like some teams know what they need to do. Some teams maybe they're not as self-aware as I think they should be. But like I feel like the league is definitely getting better. I think teams are doing a lot better in terms of recruiting, in terms of like scouting and stuff like that. Like for example, I'm in Berlin right now, so that's an easy example. I feel like the Thunder is doing a great job. You can really see from year one when I played the Thunder. I mean, they were a good team, but they were not like a solid team. Like you know what I mean? Like they were not like a well-built team. They had the talent to be good, but they didn't have like all the pieces and stuff like that. And now they're moving into that direction, and like I feel like the Thunder is going to be easily could be one of the top 4 teams in the league. They're going to be competing for a championship because places like Berlin, they have a great pool of talent around. They have 4 top European teams where they can recruit, steal, whatever you want to call it. So that's the thing that I really like. I'm going to be rooting for them really hard. Obviously, Stuttgart is doing great. It's kind of easy for them because there's 40 minutes away from Schwäbisch Hall. All the coaching staff is moving there, so it's basically pretty much just changing helmets, but it's going to be really similar to what Schwäbisch Hall used to be. I think Rheinfire is doing great. Some teams are doing a really good job. I feel like there's some other teams that are losing guys, and it's going to be hard for them to replace them. Like, for example, I feel like Barcelona is going to be in a tough spot, which is sad because, I love Spanish football. I love all the Spanish guys. I was always rooting hard for Barcelona, but it's kind of the way the league is set that if you're getting noticed and you're playing well, you're performing, and you're getting offers from other countries, it makes no sense for you to stay home. Because like you're staying home for 400 euros, or you could go somewhere else and make 3 times as much. It's a no-brainer. And the thing with Barcelona is that like most of these guys are not even from Barcelona. So like Fernandez, for example, he's from Madrid. So he's moving to Barcelona to play football. You know what I mean? He may as well just move to Germany and make more money. Like for him, it's the same. He's not staying home anyway. You know what I mean? And I feel like the home grounds are like the way the league is structured, like, is the most important part. So if you have any homegrown star, you need to keep him. You need to try really hard to keep him, but at the same time, it's going to be almost impossible for you to do that. So, I think it's interesting the way everything's set because there's so many things that could happen and so many things that you could try to like build your team. But yeah.
Yeah, so one thing we saw change from last offseason to this offseason is the European import rule going down to 6. How do you think this is affecting like recruiting and kind of the movement of players?
I'm not sure yet. I feel like it's affecting the players more than it's affecting the teams. I think there's a lot of guys that want to play. They're not gonna have the opportunity to do so because it's only 6 spots, and like sometimes it may happen that like a team really wants you, but they need a D line and you're a DB and they're not gonna get you, or stuff like that. And I feel like like for example, like in Spain, like they're losing all of their old linemen. So you need to get all linemen back, but like you only have 3 spots to get Europeans. So I think it's tricky, and I think it's not really fair because of that, because you're losing your home grounds because they're getting more money somewhere else because those are the rules, but you're not getting the opportunity to replace those guys. So I think that's something I really don't like about the ELF. I think the European limit is dumb, and I don't think that should be a rule. I think they should work way harder on making the salary cap a real thing because you have teams that you can, like, you just see the roster and you know they're not following the cap. You know, you see some names and you're like, there's no way this guy's getting 500 euros. You know, there's no way. So, like, I feel like that should be the main point and that should be the main thing instead of just, you know, putting this EU limit that it makes no sense. Like, for example, I've been living in Germany for 5 years. If I wanted to play, I can't play in Germany. Like, that's dumb. This is my home. I live here. I pay my taxes in Germany. Like, I don't know, like, why I'm not allowed to play in Berlin. Like, that makes no sense to me. And I think it's bad for the small teams and it's good for big teams because the big teams, they have the money to give to the home grounds under the table and they can get all these guys. But then it's equal when you're getting the imports. So the small teams, there's no way for them to like compensate the guys that they're losing. So that's the one thing that I don't like about the ELF and about the roster stuff.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So what do you think about some of the quarterbacks this year? I know you played with Donovan Isom, big-bodied quarterback with a big arm. What are some guys that you think are going to, maybe some new quarterbacks to the ELF that you're excited to watch?
I think Donovan is one of my favorite guys this season. Obviously, I know him very well. But not just because I know him or because I think he's a good player, but I think he's a great fit in Berlin. He has a great arm. He's going to have Aaron Jackson, who's a really good vertical receiver, 50-50 ball kind of guy. So that's a perfect fit for him. He's also going to have Vilsek, who is probably the best European receiver right now, definitely the fastest. So, like, only those two guys are already going to be so dangerous with him. And then you also have Zimmerman, who is one of the best route runners. He can work the middle. He can make every catch. Like, I feel like that's a perfect set of guys around him, you know what I mean? So I think he's going to be, for sure, I don't know, maybe top 3, something like that. You never know, but like I feel like he'll definitely be one of those guys. Not just because of him, but because of how well I think the team fits him, you know what I mean? And some guys I'm excited to watch. I think the new Hamburg guy looks good. I think that's the kind of guy that you try to get when you're in Europe and you try to get a quarterback. So you're trying to get like a successful D2 or FCS quarterback, hopefully with some NFL minicamp experience or something like that. He checks all the boxes, so I feel like that's a guy that will be interesting to watch. The new Switzerland quarterback, he has FBS experience, but he has some injuries, hasn't played in a little bit of time. It's kind of intriguing, like he may be really good or he may not even finish the season, you don't know. So that's something I don't know. But like from the new guys, definitely the Hamburg guy, I feel like that's the one that I want to watch the most. For guys from other leagues coming in, Donovan is the one guy I'm really excited about. I'm also excited about Luke from Milano because he's been in Europe for a while. He's always played really well, but he's never really played in a top league. Like he played some Big Six or CFL or like whatever. But that's just 1 or 2 games per season. It's not the same as playing an entire schedule against really high competition. So I think that'd be cool to watch to see if he's going to perform at the level that he always did or if he's going to be a little bit worse against better teams. I think that'll be interesting for everybody. So I'm excited about Luke. And those are probably, I think those are probably the 3 guys that I'm most excited about watching. In terms of I'm like intrigued about what they're gonna do. You know what I mean?
Are there any question marks for you?
Yeah, I've been reading your Twitter account. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I just tweeted back at you, and like, I think a lot of the times, like, people don't realize how competitive European football is. You know, and like, if you go play European. Like, it's not the same anywhere in Europe. You know what I mean? Like, if you go play like in a national league in like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but like any country that is not top 3, or if you're gonna play like, second league somewhere or stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's not competitive football, but if you're playing top football in Europe, like you're playing for a top 20, top 25 team, or you're playing the ELF, or you're in the GFL playoffs or something like that, like, it's actually really competitive, and sometimes guys that have not played at that level, like to me that makes no sense. Like even when you get like a D3 guy, like it's really likely that he has never played a game like what he may face when he goes to Rhine Fire and he has 10,000 people and there's, like really good athletes all over the field. Like he probably has never seen that. So if you're getting a D3 guy, you need a guy that has been like, national champion or that has been in the Gagliardi Trophy watch list or stuff like that, or like All American. If you're getting like a lower division guy, you need a guy that has dominated at that level. Or if you get an FBS quarterback, for example, like you may get away with somebody that wasn't that good at that level because this is obviously going to be lower. But then at the same time, like, are you getting a guy that hasn't really played? Somebody that was in the FBS but he was in the bench. You don't really know how that's going to turn out. Like I remember Stuttgart a few years ago, they signed a quarterback from USC, but he was like, I don't think he was even in the 2D. He was probably like a third or fourth guy. He never played in 4 years, and he came over here, and he was actually a good athlete, and he did decent. But like, it's probably not gonna be a game changer when he hasn't played a real game in like 4 years, 5 years. So with the Braslov quarterback, it's kind of the same situation. Like he didn't start in high school, he didn't start in college. He started 1 year at junior college, but that's a lower level than what he's gonna face here. So, like, what's the difference between getting him or getting, like, a top European quarterback? Like, it's probably not that high. Like, if they get Jan Weinreich, I'm probably not pronouncing that right. But if they get him, like, it's probably even better, because he doesn't count as an American. He has already played at this level. Like, so the whole point of getting an American quarterback is getting a guy that is above this, If you're not doing that, then I feel like you're failing in that regard,
I guess it's also like you want some certainty in that position, right? You pick up a guy with 3 to 4 years of experience playing college football,
absolutely.
and you know what you're getting with him, right? There's no question marks, there's no uncertainty. Whereas with this Panthers quarterback, I mean, he might be good. There was Josh Golden for the Hurricanes in GFL last year or 2 years ago, and he was at Colorado, and he never played a snap, right? He was the holder for field goal, and that was it. He turned out to be quite a good quarterback, right? And that's not to say that this guy for the Panthers is going to be bad, but you just have no idea. And if that's the guy you're leaning on to lead your offense for a whole ELF season, it's just a bit of it's a questionable signing. But do you feel like there's also been a lowering in quality from imports coming over from the States due to other professional leagues like the USFL, the XFL, and so on?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's pretty much impossible for you to compete with those leagues for players. And the guys that you always wanted to get in Europe were the guys that were just off the NFL radar. So the guys that just missed the NFL because they were 1 inch too short or because they run 1/10 too slow or whatever, But guys that just missed the NFL, but they were close enough to like be considered, you know what I mean? And all those guys now are going to the USFL, they're going to the XFL because they're staying home, they're getting way more money, like they're getting more exposure. Like it's a no-brainer. Like it makes no sense to even talk about it, So now you're not going to like the tier 2 of players in America, you're going to the tier 3. So now you have to dig a little deeper. And sometimes it's no problem because like if you try to get like a receiver or DN or cornerback, there are thousands of them in America. It's not that hard. But if you're trying to get a quarterback, it's a little harder because honestly, like good quarterbacks are rare at any level. Like when I was at Bucknell, like in the whole season we faced maybe 2 quarterbacks that go have played in Europe and like been really good. We played 11 games. We played an FBS. We played Central Michigan. Central Michigan's quarterback. Like he could have been good in Europe, but he wouldn't have been the best quarterback in Europe. You know what I mean? So like good quarterbacks are rare at any level. Now you're missing those guys. You're losing those guys to these leagues, and you have to go for the next best thing, and that's kind of hard. And I feel like maybe that's one of the reasons why most of the teams are getting guys that are already in Europe. Which I think is surprising because, if I'm getting Donovan or I'm getting Helbig, I'm getting one of the top GFL quarterbacks or maybe a top Maple League quarterback, like, cool, I'll do that. But once those 2, 3, maybe 4 guys are already gone, like I'll just go find a college quarterback, you know. But like you said, now those guys are going to these leagues, so you have to go for the third best option instead of the second best option. So there's definitely a big drop off.
Yeah, I mean, I think like just to clear up my tweet with Rango, like I hope that he throws for 5,000 yards and 50
Yeah.
touchdowns. It's just for me, like as a fan of the ELF, I want them to get, like you said, like a
Yeah.
guy like Jackson Erdman, who was a very accomplished quarterback in
Yeah.
college, even at a lower level, you know, or a guy that played at Patriot League or a level like this, you know, like that's
Yeah.
what I want for ELF because I think that's better in the long run. Is that might be harder now, like you said, with these other leagues, but yeah, hope Rango has a great season. I was just surprised by
Nah, I feel it.
It also
there was nothing to look at really.
It
Yeah.
also builds like the status of the league, right? Like if you can bring in former NFL players, former Division One players, like you're building the status of the league. You're building the status of a team, of a franchise, and when there is like a kind of there is a money aspect to everything you're doing and a marketability of certain teams. That stuff's important, right? Bringing in Michael Sam to Barcelona is a big move because it puts your team on the radar. Quante Turpin being named as a Pro Bowler puts the Panthers on the radar. However, when you sign a junior college quarterback who's played one, do you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't put your team on the radar, and it's harder to market your team to potential investors. And so that stuff matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like the ELF is no different from the USFL or the XFL in terms of like the way they have to approach business and the way they want to like market themselves and stuff like that. Like they have to go through the same things. And like always, like for spring leagues, like one of the biggest problems that they have had getting fans and being marketed, like you said, is getting a good quarterback. Because that's hard. Like I said, like that's hard at any level. So like that's such a big part of it. Like I don't understand. I don't understand why they're not putting more effort into it. I feel like it sounds bad, but I feel like they're not putting enough effort into that position. And like I know these teams have money, these teams have resources. Like Braslov is a great franchise, great organization. Like they could probably get anybody they want that is reasonable to get. So that's what I'm saying. Like if they got these guys because they think that he's their guy, and that's great. But also like last year they went through 3 quarterbacks. And you know it's like that makes you look bad, and that it's probably like if you don't hit your quarterback, you probably fail that season. Like
Yeah, I
so,
mean, we saw them. They were really good in
yeah,
2021, and then they
yeah,
won only 5 games last year. Part of that may have been quarterback play, you know. I was a little disappointed personally because of last year they got Justice Hansen, who was probably the best college resume of anyone in ELF. You know, he was the FBS Player of the Year in his conference in the Sun Belt, which is
yeah,
one of the better G5s. You know, had CFL, had NFL looks, and then go from that to Marengo. That because I was kind of hoping like, okay, they have a really good coach.
yeah.
Well, who's going to be their quarterback, right? Like they have everything in place for a big name, and yeah, but I was a little disappointed to be honest.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I said, that's what I feel like. That's one of the teams that could pull like actually like a big name. 'Cause, you know, like when you're playing in America and you're playing in a big school or whatever, and you have everything you need, everything you want, you show up to a stadium, you play in a great stadium, and then you come here, you know, you barely have a locker room. There's nobody doing your laundry, like you know, stuff like that. Yeah, like it's disappointing, and it's hard for the guys to like adapt to that. But like Braslov, like that's really not that much of a like, you know what I mean? Like it's not that much of a change. Like their stadium is probably better than the one I had at Bucknell. You know, the locker room is definitely better. Like you know, stuff like that. Like you saw out to Braslov, and like you realize like, oh, this is for real. You know what I mean? This is a pro team. Like this is legit. So they could actually pull it off if they got like a big name guy. That's why I'm like you. I'm surprised, and they have the connections. Like last year, they were working with Gary Kubiak, who is like a great offensive mind. Like it's hard for me to not think that like, damn, maybe Kubiak knows a guy that just wants an opportunity to play. You know what I mean? Like maybe some all NFL guy, or maybe some younger guy that is trying to get more loose. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as a consultant, I mean, I'm not sure what his opinion on that signing was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's still involved, I don't know if he's still involved with the program. But either way, yeah.
But
So
like coaches in America are so they're so approachable. Like you can pick up the phone, call anybody, and they'll help you. They'll tell you what they're thinking. They give you their insight or like references on any guy you want. So like if you have his number, you can call him and it's just 20-minute conversation. Just ask him like, hey, I'm looking for a quarterback. Like any ideas, whatever. And he's gonna try to help you. Like coaches over there are like that. And that's another thing that surprises me sometimes. Like when teams are scouting or recruiting or whatever, like they never call the college coaches, and that's the first thing I would do if I'm trying to bring a guy, like, because it's easy. You look it up on their website, coach's email, cell phone, anything, and he's going to be super happy to help you. You call him, you send him an email, he's going to reply, and like that's so easy, and that's kind of like narrows down the process of like maybe missing on a guy or not missing on a guy. And I feel like teams are really scared when they're looking for college guys, like they're scared to miss. But like if you do the homework, like you don't have to miss. You know what I mean? Like maybe he gets injured or maybe he's not a good fit with your offense or whatever. Like that could happen. But like it's not gonna be like a character thing, or it's not gonna be like he's not a hard worker or stuff like that. If you do your homework and you call the coaches and you talk to the people, like
I get you. From your estimation, and just kind of, you've always been watching ELF for a lot of the off-season moves. Who do you think has kind of built their roster the best over this past off-season, and who do you think is most likely to feature in the final this upcoming season?
I mean, I really like Berlin. Like I said, I feel like their offense is going to be really, really hard to stop if they get a good running back. I don't think they have announced all of their European guys. If they get a good running back, their offense is going to be amazing. And then their defense has been good the first 2 years. If they can get Isinjon back, that would be a huge signing. I don't know if he's back or not. But like if they can get most of the guys back on defense and they can get a good running back, like I think Berlin is going to be really hard team to beat. And then I think Innsbruck is going to. I think their roster is going to be better than last year. I think their quarterback is going to be a big drop off from what they had last year. But I think Innsbruck is going to be in the mix of it for sure. And then obviously Stuttgart, like, they already had a good, like, if you put two teams together, you're going to get a good team anyway. Like, there's no way you don't, because there's too much talent around. And also, like, Cody Pastorino has always been a really good scout and recruit. Jordan, too. Like, they're going to get really good American players. They're going to get good Europeans. So I think Stuttgart is going to have one of the better, like, built rosters, if that makes sense. Maybe not necessarily the best one, but, like, they're going to be all around really sound. And then I think Ryan Fire is just going to get, like, he's just going to be like an all-star team and just getting every big name they can. And, so I think Ryan Fire and Berlin are the ones I like the most. And then Innsbruck, depending on how the quarterback does, and then Stuttgart, depending on, everything, because everything is new for them. But I feel like those four teams are probably going to be the best built, you know what I mean? Then obviously Hamburg, like they have been really good the first 2 years. If they can keep their front seven, like anything else doesn't really matter. They're going to compete. Vienna was super deep last year. I mean, this year, I feel like that was the best thing about Vienna because they actually had so many injuries and you couldn't even tell. So if they can get some of the guys healthy again, like 89, I can't remember his last name.
Florian Bierbaumer, right?
Yeah.
The tall,
Yeah. If a guy like that plays the whole season and they get most of the guys back, they're going to be just as good as last year. Their quarterback is going to be, I think, a small drop-off, but he's still going to be pretty good. So I think Vienna is also going to be really good. So those 6 teams are probably my top 6.
Yeah, Hamburg is an interesting one. You played for Brett Morgan. What kind of offense can we kind of expect, like with this dual-threat quarterback and a good ex-receiver?
I think Brett is, from all the coaches I've had, he's probably the best coach I've ever had. Him along with Adam Birdie. But he's just his preparation is unbelievable. I've never been around a coach who prepares like him, and I guess as you spoke about earlier, Daniel, that's the American way of doing things, right? They really do prepare. As far as what to expect from him, I'm not really sure because I played for him for two different teams, and it was something a bit different each time. Do you know what I mean? I think he's very adaptable. And his kind of approach to the game is quite fluid as well. So I think he'll work with what he's got, but he's a great scout and he's an amazing scout and amazing like orator and speaking to his players and so on. So I think he'll do a great job there. I'm not sure what he'll do, but he's got some great players. So yeah, I think the offense will be something really, really good this year.
Nice. Yeah, I think so too. And like last year and the first year too, their offense was kind of holding them back. Last year was the quarterback. First year was not their quarterback, but like stuff around him. So if they can get their offense going and their defense is similar to what it's been the first 2 years, they'll be really good.
Yeah, I hear you. So, Daniel, what are your plans? Do you have any solid plans for next year? Are you coaching somewhere? Are you playing? What's the top of your mind?
I don't know yet, man. I'm trying to figure it out. It's harder the older you get because there's more things you have to consider. Like, when I was a little younger, I just got a few offers and wherever I like the most, I was just going and I didn't really care about anything else. But now there's more stuff to consider, so it gets a little bit harder. I thought about playing again. I don't think I'll do it, at least at this point. I would like to, but like I said, like right now it will have to be like a perfect situation and, it's just probably not going to happen. So I think I'll be coaching most likely. And then I'm working on some projects in the States. Hopefully they work out. If they work out, that would be awesome. But yeah, I would like to, like the way I see my professional future, for calling it somehow, will be like somewhat of a bridge, like between Europe and America, and like, you know what I mean? That's where I would like to be.
Where are you going to coach?
I don't know yet. I don't even know if I'll coach, but I don't know yet. But if I coach, it'll be in Europe. That's for sure.
Okay.
If I coach, it'll be in Europe.
Gotcha. Well, Daniel, I really appreciate you coming on. It's awesome hearing your story about, doing the GFL, Spring League, ELF, and then jumping to coaching Division One. And yeah, it was incredible insight. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, happy to do it anytime. You can hit me up. We can talk here.
Awesome. We'll get you back for sure.